All right, so I have the pleasure and the honor of introducing our guest speaker this morning. His name is Scott Branan out of Florida. He's from Beyond Entertainment. Scott, you can find him at www.beyondaudiovisual.com and on Facebook at both Beyond Audiovisual and Beyond Entertainment. He offers screenwriting courses called Writing Right, featuring topics such as story structure, pitching perfect, and screenplay software, which he was telling me a little bit about. I'm super excited about that one. So we are honored to have him presenting Pitching Perfect to us this morning. So would you please help me welcome Scott Branan?
Thank you. Good morning. Are you guys awake yet? Okay, that was good, but let's try it again. Are you awake yet? All right, good. Writing right is something that we're going to be going over here, but before I do that, real quick, let me tell you a quick bit about myself so you know where I'm coming from, because it'll make sense later when I'm telling you other stuff. As she said, my name is Scott Branan with Beyond Entertainment. We're in Southwest Florida. It's a little warmer there. I'm just saying. Just saying. But we're happy to be here. I was actually raised in Missouri, up near the Kansas City area, and it's good to be back in town and seeing what's going on. So I appreciate y'all for coming out. Here's what I want to do. So I kind of want to go over this overview. This is a huge overview, and some of this stuff is probably some things maybe some of you know, and then maybe we'll get to a point where maybe you're learning something new or something. So we'll see what happens. But let me start off with this. What is the one thing that every story, what is the one thing that every good story should have?
Conflict.
Say it again? Conflict. Thank you very much. Can you go to the first slide for me? We're just going to kind of, we're real informal today, so we're just going to kind of do that kind of thing. So one more slide, sorry. So the one thing that every story needs is conflict, but what you also need is a unique resolution. Your unique resolution is what's going to set your screenplay apart from everything else. Let me give you some dumb examples. If your story is about a girl and she likes this guy, but they can't be together because of whatever society, whatever, that's a pretty normal, common story. Conflict is pretty obvious. But if you have a specific, unique resolution to that that's different, that's where you need to, to point it out. For instance, in that scenario, that could be Romeo and Juliet, that could be West Side Story, or let's be honest, every Disney film that's ever happened in the history of mankind. So whichever one those are, that's how it is. So in this situation with your conflict, when you're pitching, and this is kind of our first thought process here, is get to it. Get to your conflict so that we know what your conflict is, but don't spend too much time on it because we need to know your unique resolution. Okay, now you can go back a slide. These are some of the things that I've worked on. I wrote The Czar of Hollywood, which is an action teen adventure comedy. I used to be a youth pastor, and so I have a lot of things that are kind of teen-oriented because that's my mindset, which is weird because I'm now 50. But back in the day, when I was a cool youth pastor, and it was way back in the day, but it happened. That's the kind of thing. So The Czar of Hollywood is something that is near and dear to my heart. It's actually a retelling of The Wizard of Oz in a modern day setting. But we've used these characters to be able to talk about politics and religion and society and just, the coming of age type stories kind of thing. World Peace is another teen adventure. It's my wife worked for an exchange student program for 20 years, and we hosted almost 40 exchange students in our home over that time. And so I got a lot of pretty funny stories that I put into the film from all the different countries and stuff. And World Peace's logline, we'll talk about loglines in a little bit, but World Peace's logline is they don't have superpowers to save the planet, just stereotypes. So the first half of the film, we kind of poke fun at all of those stereotypes, but then the second half of the film, they use their unique stereotypes to actually save the world, so it's kind of fun. Million to One is a romantic comedy. Yeah, it takes place in New York, which is fun. I wrote it, and then actually 2 years ago, I went to New York, and it was the first time I'd ever been in New York, and kind of checked to see if what I had written made sense or not, so it worked out well. And then Countdown, let me do that in just a second. Deep Within is a sci-fi. We have a couple of scientists. One's a creation scientist, one is a evolution scientist, and of course they go head to head, and they happen to be dating. But anyway, So it's a fun story. Countdown is what I want to take a moment about. Countdown is a story about a guy who he finds out that he has 6 months to live and changes his whole life around and starts doing really good deeds. But then finds out that his diagnosis was a mistake and has to decide if he's going to continue to living as if living or living as if dying. And so been 2 years ago, they were filming a film in Orlando called Don't Say My Name. It's coming out this year, by the way. Check it out, Don't Say My Name. And my company, Beyond Entertainment, was providing some of the equipment. One of the things that we had there was our makeup trailer. And so Cameron Arnett was in the... Have you guys ever heard of Cameron Arnett?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah. So Cameron Arnett is in my makeup trailer, and he's a captive audience. Because he can't leave, because it's my makeup trailer. So I went in and I said, hey, I got the script. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. But I'd like to get you the script and see what you think. And he says, sure, send it to my agent, and I'll be in touch. So a few weeks later, sure enough, I get a call back, and he's like, dude, I like it, I'm in, I want to do it. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. So Countdown is scheduled to have Cameron Arnett be the lead actor, and his wife is going to play his wife, and BJ, and so it's exciting. And then I had I won't go to the long story now, but I had a guy that I met who's a producer, director in LA, worked on some stuff that you've heard of, and he's not a director for the stuff that you've heard of, but he's done some other stuff in the film industry, and agreed to be the director, and had it all set up to happen last April. Wah, wah, yeah. So, but now we're trying to get it all back together, make it all work, but it's all in God's timing, and that's okay, but I'm telling you this because, and I'll get there in just a few seconds, there's times when you're going to be pitching your story to different people for different reasons. And I want to kind of go over some of those different pitches and those different reasons, and we'll eventually maybe get to where you are. But those are some of the projects that I've worked on, and Desire of Hollywood does have there's a little movie trailer, like a 3-minute movie trailer that's online. You can look it up. If you go to YouTube, literally type in The Czar of Hollywood, and you can see that. Okay. And actually you see that guy in the front row. He was a lot shorter then because he's in the movie trailer. So let's go 2 slides now. There we go. Why pitch prep? Because you're going to need to pitch your project. You got a project. I mean, the reason why you wrote it was so that you can get it out there, right? I mean, you want to get your project out there. So you want to have a good pitch ready to go for all the different people that you might be pitching to. So your collaboration writers, maybe you have someone else that you want to write with. I'm currently doing that with the Czar of Hollywood. It's been an exciting adventure so far. I found a guy who has been a theater teacher all of his entire life, and he is just, like, in my opinion, like the best theater teacher ever. And I took the idea of the Czar of Hollywood and said, hey, could we make this a stage version? And so my dad is helping us do that, and I'm excited. So maybe I'm biased on the whole best teacher thing, but I don't know. So sometimes you're going to have a collaboration writer that you're going to work with. And can I just be honest with you? It's difficult to do that sometimes, to let your baby be, touched and adjusted and tweaked and edited by someone else. But I'm beginning to learn that if you find people that are passionate as you about the things that you're passionate about, that 2 heads are better than 1 when it comes to doing those kind of things. Or let me also say this way, 2 hearts are better than 1 sometimes when it comes to those things, so it's good. All right, sometimes it might be an investor. I don't know if you're at a point where maybe you have a film and you want to film it yourself. Can I just be honest? Hollywood isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And so sometimes we don't want to go through that particular situation, so we do our own thing. And so you might be in a situation where you need to pitch to an investor. And by the way, your pitch to an investor is probably going to be a little more detailed in what it's doing. We'll go over some of that here in just a few minutes. And so that's a very important thing. If you're not in that mindset, maybe you're just pitching it to, you're writing it, wanting a production company or somebody else to be in it, then that's another option too. Obviously, you can pitch to a production company. I know I skipped actors and actresses, I'll come back. But you might be pitching to a production company or to a producer, very similar to what you're doing today, and you want to make sure that you have precise concise information, but enough information, but not too much information. We don't need to know the entire history of the world when it comes to pitching your piece, but we want to have enough that we definitely understand what you're talking about. You might be pitching to actors and actresses, just like I did with Cameron Arnett, even though that was kind of a different situation. You might not have your actor or actress trapped inside a makeup trailer, I don't know. Whatever works for you, whatever, you know. They say that it's who you know. Right? We're just talking about it's who you know, but you got to be somewhere to meet people, to know them. So get yourself and get your stuff out there and buy a makeup trailer. No, I'm just kidding. Producers, like we're doing today here, you want to get in front of the right producers and make sure that you have all of the information that they're going to need to become passionate about that project. Basically, what you're doing is you're selling your conceptual idea not through financial means, but through every other mean to the producer and also a director. So let me give you a quick one for the director. So this director that I was just talking about, I met him in Rome, Georgia. We were at a film festival, and he had won several awards there, and I don't know if you've ever had that moment in your life where you've seen someone and the light just kind of shines down on them, and they're, oh, you know, and you're like, I need to meet that person. And so that happened with his name's Justin O'Neill Miller, and I was like, man, that guy, I don't know what it is, I want to meet that guy. And so afterwards, I came up to him real quick, and I was like, hey, I know you're busy, I don't want to bother you anything, but I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I'm sure he's like, could you please step back? We got to talking, and I'm not kidding you, out of the blue, this guy, and by the way, it's not a Christian film festival, this guy says to me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I'm a Christian, and I really am wanting to get involved in projects that make a difference in people's lives. And I was like, what? You know, so, okay, I have some of those. And he says, I really like to see what you have. And, but here's the thing. And so this is kind of the second kind of little lesson here is, but be patient. Because that moment was not the right moment for me to launch into the pitch, you know. Because I'll sit down and talk to any of you. I'll talk for hours. I'll tell you everything that, but there's a time and a place. And I knew that wasn't the right time or the place. And so I did something that was very difficult for me. I waited, and actually 3 days. I waited 3 days until the right moment. And we finally were walking out of the theater, and it's just him and I and one other person that is a friend of his. And if you've ever been to downtown Rome, Georgia, it's a nice little place, the brick streets and the old town type, by the train station kind of. It's a really nice place. And we're walking down, he was going to his car for something that's a couple blocks away. And I think we were on like 2nd Street or something, and I turned and he goes, so tell me what you got, what's your best pitch? And I realized in that moment, that was my moment. That was a huge opportunity right then. And I'll be honest with you, I started to pitch Countdown, but then changed my mind at the last second and pitched a different project that I didn't mention to you because it's top secret and I can't tell you because I have to kill you. So I pitched him that, and this is just one of those moments in my life that I'll just remember forever. By the time we got to 12th Street, he stops and he says, Scott, dude, that is the coolest thing I think I have ever heard. Please let me direct your film. And I was like, what? So then I go back to my room that night, and I'm looking him up on IMDb, and it's like, I'm Justin Miller, and he's the art director for Ant-Man, First Man, Tenet, Baby Driver, The Hunger Games. He was the set director for The Walking Dead and Teen Wolf, and just a ton of stuff, which I'm glad I didn't know when I was talking to him, because I probably wouldn't have been able to speak, but, and he was like, I want to find something that's different, and he goes, your stuff is just different enough that that's what I want to be involved in. And I had that moment to pitch to that director, and he's not a director. He didn't direct The Hunger Games and those things I just mentioned. He's the art director, but wants to go into directing, so that would make sense. I've seen his stuff, it's really good. Let him have a chance doing this with my stuff, so that helps him, but then that kind of helps further along, because he knows people, and they know people, and they know people, so we'll see what happens. All right, next one, let's see what we've got. So the types of pitches, and again, you need to know which one to use and when and where, but some of these may be obvious, and some of them, I'm sure you've done this, but just for those in case you don't know, there's the friend pitch. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. Probably not actually that helpful, because your friends always go, "Oh, that was good," you know, and it's not always good. I'm just saying. So, but try the friend pitch, and if you can convince your friends that your honest friends that what you have is good, then that's a good sign. So, I would say the most important one on here is the elevator pitch. Exactly like what it sounds like. If you were to get into an elevator and the doors close, ding, and you realize Steven Spielberg is standing next to you, and he looks at you and says, "Hey, what do you do?" "I'm a writer." "Really? Tell me about one of your projects." Well, you have from floor 1 to wherever you're going to get that out. So that's something that I would highly recommend. You have that ability to just rattle off at any moment. You should be able to, in an elevator or in the restroom. I'm sure that would never happen, but wherever it is that you need to pitch, you be prepared to do that. So that's also something we'll talk about log lines too. That might be something you want to start with your log line, and I would suggest to you, I'll say this again at the end, but I would suggest to you to perfect your log line. Perfect your log line, and then you need to rewrite it again. And then rewrite it again. You can never ever have a more perfect log line than the most perfect log line that you could possibly have. So keep working on that. And by the way, keep editing it over and over and over and over and over. Make it as short as you can. Make it as precise as you can. Let me step over here and say something somewhat churchy for a second. If you've ever heard the concept, if you want me to preach for an hour, give me an hour to prepare. If you want me to preach for a half an hour, give me 3 hours to prepare. And if you want me to preach for 20 minutes, give me a day or two to prepare. The longer you prepare, the more concise you can be in your sermon. And let's be honest, some of our films and some things that we're doing are basically a sermon. So your log line and your preparation for that needs to have a lot of preparation for a concise and precise sermon delivery. So, all right, let's see. Pitch Fest. If we've ever been to some pitch fests where this is horrible, but it's really just speed dating for your. It's like getting a date for your screenplay. They'll put you in a room. There's like lots and lots of different tables and lots of different producers, and you have 3 or 4 minutes, kind of similar to what you could do, but and you kind of go from one to one to one. I was in one, and I'm at the first one, and boom, I was pitching the Czar of Hollywood, and I did my pitch, and. The person goes, oh, it's like the Wizard of Oz. I was like, yeah. And so, okay, we talked. And I left the correct amount of time that you're supposed to leave for questions and all that stuff at the end. And then I went to the next one, and I got done, and like, oh, yeah, okay. At the end, I said, because then, the main character, lead character, then ends up, she realizes, oh, there's no place like Rome, Georgia. Like, oh, like the Wizard of Oz, yeah, okay. And I got to the third one, and I got done, and this girl just stared at me. And I was like, it's a parallel of the Wizard of Oz. And I kid you not, I'm not making this up. She says, what's the Wizard of Oz? So I was like, okay, I'm just kidding. I was like, man, because you never know who you're going to pitch to, and so, that's just how it is. It's sometimes you hit it, and sometimes you don't. And you might have the perfect pitch, but the people who are receiving it, maybe it's not their genre, maybe it's not their thing, maybe there's something. So don't be discouraged when you, and I'm not going to say if, but when you get rejected, don't be discouraged. It's going to happen, because chances are you're not going to make every movie and everything you've ever thought about, it's just not going to happen. But don't be discouraged. It might not be you. Could be you. Could be. I'm just saying. Okay, then there's the one-page pitch. The one-page pitch is literally just that. It's writing stuff down, making sure that it's all concise on that page. Same thing for the 3-page pitch desk. You want to have a little bit more information for that 3-pager, but definitely you want to have the information that's going to be more commercially viable, what's going to show the commercial viability of your project for your 3-page. 1 page may be more just information on the actual story itself, but 3 pages is going to get into, hey, here's who I think the lead actor and actress should be, and here's why I think it's going to make money, and here's how it's going to be popular, and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Your pitch desk, just pitch desk in general, depends on who you're talking to. That's something, if you want to talk about individually or something afterwards, we'd be happy to help you out. And then there's the one-on-one. One-on-one is happening a lot more now because we're all online, because everything is across the country and whatever. But that's still almost the same concept as standing in the elevator with Steven Spielberg. That's still something that you want to have precise and concise, and we'll do that. Okay, let's go to the next one. We'll start looking at these things. So do know your genre. Well, duh, Scott. I know my comedy or what, but here's where we forget is, but know theirs. If you write comedy and you're sitting in front of somebody that only does, horror or something, you're done. So make sure you do your homework on who you're pitching your project to. Let me say it again. Do your homework on who you're pitching your project to. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're also wasting their time, and you might possibly burn a bridge that you might need to cross later. So watch that and be careful. I already said this to you, but be patient. Be patient. I know that's difficult. It's difficult for me to do that. I just want to, And JoJo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet, And so I just can't, I can't do it. But learning to just be calm and slow down, get the important information, which is something that's why if you have taken the time to get your stuff together and you know your log line and maybe tagline, whatever, then that's something that's really going to help start you off, kind of give them an overview, and then you can go into a little bit more detail as needed. So when it comes to your talent, when it comes to your ability, be confident. There's nothing wrong with being confident. But if you are overconfident or you're cocky, it's kind of a turnoff. You might have the greatest script ever written, but if you act like it, that's kind of a turnoff. Because what that is, the producer then is kind of thinking to himself, well, I don't know if I want to work with this person. They might have a good script, but this person's weird. So, not that anyone's ever thought that I was weird, but leave time for your questions and answers at the end. So like if you have a 3-minute pitch session or something, I would say you want to leave maybe a minute or so, 30 seconds or something at the end of that so that they can ask questions. The reason for, and by the way, that's a good thing. If they're asking questions, that could mean an indication of that they're actually interested in your project. Or it could mean they have no idea what you're talking about because your pitch wasn't good. It depends on which, we can kind of go either way there. But so leave time for your questions and answers. Explain why you are uniquely qualified. So I told you that my wife and I have hosted 40 exchange students over the past 20 years. So that's why I feel I am uniquely qualified to write World Peace, which is a story about 12 different teenagers from 12 different countries who are on a summit for advanced students in Switzerland. And I pulled from each of those kids that stayed with us just a little bit of information. We had a lot of Chinese kids that stayed with us, and French kids, and Spanish, Taiwan, Hong Kong, German, Brazil, Morocco, lots of students. And so I would take several years worth of information and use that for one character in that same category, and then kind of make that happen. So I'm writing what I know, and like I said, as a youth director, so I write what I know. Now, there's also, I think there's also a point to where maybe you can write what you don't know as long as you've done your research of what you didn't know, but you kind of know enough to make sure that it sounds right. I don't know if you've ever heard of, what's his name? Dave Cristiano. Anybody ever heard of him? He's a filmmaker. And I'll say he's a friend of mine, like I'm important, but that's not true. We were at Starbucks a few years ago, and he goes, I'm writing this movie right now, and it's about ballroom dancing. And so I've been taking ballroom dancing courses, and I was like, huh? He goes, yeah, it's really cool. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, why are you doing that? Well, because I want to write a film. If I'm going to write a film, I want to know what I'm writing about. So when somebody's out there, and they're watching, and they're like, okay, that would never happen, because then I've taken them out of the story because, I've gone off onto some weird planet that they don't know what I'm talking about. So, kind of like now. But anyway, by the way, check out Dave Cristiano's stuff. It's really good. He did some good stuff. And his twin brother is Rich Cristiano, the Cristiano brothers, yeah. Okay, let's see. Know which pitch in which situation. I mentioned that before. Know which one you need to use and where. Obviously, if you're in the elevator with Steven Spielberg, you don't have time for the 15, 20-minute pitch. That's just not going to happen. So make sure you fit it in to where you are, and you know which one you need to use. And then, like I said before, remember rejection isn't personal. It's not personal. Here's the dumb example that I often use is, for Countdown, we had a casting call. We used, what was that? faithbasedcasting.com. And we had over 200 people that sent in for that thing. And we went over and over and over and over, and Justin and everybody, they kind of did their thing. And here's the thing, there's like, I would say probably 30 or 40 people that tried out for the doctor. There's a scene where the doctor gives the bad news, And they were all, a lot of them were really great. I mean, they were great. There's some that were not as great, but there's a lot of them that were really great. But there can only be one. And for whatever it was that we selected, the one that we selected, it wasn't because the other ones were bad. It's just, there was just a couple more things for this one that we went with this, with this particular actor. The same is true in your pitching. Just because you pitched and you might have pitched well and they didn't want to do anything with it, that's not necessarily bad for you. That's just maybe just didn't quite fit exactly what they were looking for. So, especially if you're in a situation where your genre or your film is a very specific niche or a very specific topic, that's a little harder to sell. But it also means that if you find the right people, you're the one. You know what I mean? Somebody told me once, I don't know if this is true, but somebody told me once, try to write as much as you can for Christmas, because I always like Christmas things, but I don't know if that's true or not. But so I've written a few of mine are, Christmas type, around Christmas stories, but it's fun. I'm writing one for Hallmark right now. Don't tell anybody that, but it's kind of fun. It actually is set here in Branson, Missouri. So I'm doing research while I'm here. I'm going to make it a business trip and write it off. I don't know. Whatever. All right, next one. Don't send unsolicited material. Okay, so I see all the time on like the Facebook screenwriting pages and stuff like that. How do I send my stuff to Netflix and blah 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 blah. They didn't ask you, and they're not going to ask you. So that's not how it's done. You don't just send it in. I'm just being honest. Netflix, 24 flicks, Pure Flicks, all those flicks. It's a lot of flicks, and they're just there's a process that you need to go through. When you send in your unsolicited material, there's sometimes legally they can't look at that stuff because of all the copyright stuff. So it's a waste of your time and it's a waste of their time. And again, you could possibly be burning bridges that you don't want to burn because you might need that bridge later. So don't send unfinished material. I would also say it's just as important if I'm in the elevator with Steven Spielberg and he likes my stuff and wants me to send it like right then. Well, I haven't actually written that. That was just an idea. So that's not going to go over well. So only pitch what you have. Okay, and then don't assume that you are God's gift to writing. For obvious reasons, there's a lot of people in the world who have gone through a lot of things, and I think everybody has a unique perspective and a unique situation that they've been through of something that they have a huge heart that they want to tell. So you might have a good one, but you're not the only one, so keep it humble. Keep it humble. Don't assume that a small win is the end game. Somebody called me back and wants me to send them my script. Yes! Okay, I might be getting a little ahead of ourselves, so just go through the process and see what happens. Don't pitch to the wrong people. This is horrible, but there's a lot of people out there who will try to convince you that they are important and that they want all of your information and stuff like that. I'm very cautious of who I pitch to. By the way, make sure that you copyright everything. No, I don't mean, WGA is fine. You can do the Writers Guild, that's fine. But a real honest-to-goodness copyright, I really highly recommend that for your project. And I usually do that after the first full rewrite. Like when I'm done, it's officially finished, I ended it. Now I copyright it. Now there's going to be like 6 or 7 or 8 or 115 more rewrites after that, but I at least have it copyrighted after that first one. But don't pitch to the wrong people because for obvious reasons. So guard your work, and don't let your story get lost in the pitch. Sometimes this is kind of a weird concept, but you can be so involved in how you're pitching and to try to make a cool, awesome pitch that the simplicity of what you're saying can get lost. So keep it simple so that we understand what's going on. Because your story literally might have the power to be able to change people's lives when they hear about the gospel of Christ, or they hear about how this situation changed these people. And that would be the same for them, but they'll never get to see the movie because it was lost in the pitch. All right, next. So your pitch setup. You can tell us where, you don't have to do all these are just some suggestions. I'm just suggesting some stuff. You need to decide for your story what's best for you. So we'll go from there. Where does it take place, and set it up? If in the Czar of Hollywood, she starts in Rome, Georgia. And it's important to the story for us to know that she starts in Rome, Georgia, because that's going to be key later on when we come back. But we need to know that. Now, I don't need to know everything about, like the house that she lives in and the color of the fence and stuff. That's too much information for your pitch, but get us there. So obviously we talk about what is the conflict. Make sure you get to the conflict. And hopefully you've really fleshed out the conflict enough that you know it well. So if they ask you specific questions about the conflict, you can answer those very specific questions. What are the hero's plans to overcome? This is one that, this is your uniqueness in your script. You've got to have your uniqueness in your script. He likes her or she likes him, and they can't be together. So they're gonna just get a blog and talk online for the rest of their life. It's like that's not exciting. So come up with something that's more exciting than the average, and that will be the thing the catalyst that makes you over the top. So share the twist. Here's a tough one. So I've also written a suspense thriller, and I'm going to tell you this, and my wife would shoot me if she knew I was telling you, but it's called Santa Slayer. It purposely has a stupid title. And the reason why it has a stupid title is because the title is one of the first redirects. It's to try to get you to think, oh, this is one of those dumb horror suspense thrillers that that comes out at Christmas. It's like the low budget stuff, And but the title is actually a redirect to try to get the audience to think a certain way. And then throughout the entire thing, there's redirects and redirects and redirects. Because in suspense, that's what you're trying to do, is trying to get them to look over there because you're going to scare them over here. But do you share the twist, or do you not share the twist in your pitch? And I'm going to give you my dumb opinion and my answer, and that is this: it depends on who I'm pitching to. If I'm pitching to the person that's paying for the project, I'm going to reveal the twist because I think they need to know that whole thing about your project. Now, obviously the director, people like that. But there may be some other folks that you're pitching to that they do not need to know that yet. And so you want to maybe withhold that so that it becomes even more of a suspenseful thing at the end there. So, but that's up to you. So I'm just saying it's there. How will they remember your story? There's a couple ways. I would say they could remember you, but it's more important that they don't remember you. It's more important that they remember your story. I would rather them go, oh, what was that guy's name that was talking about such and such a project? Because then that means they remember the project, not just that I was weird, Not that that's ever happened before. It's like high school all over again. How will they remember your story is going to be something that if you will take time to insert in your pitch, even if it's just a line or two. And again, I know this is all really general information, but that's because everybody has a very different thing that they're doing. So you kind of know, as the writer, you should know where